When you hear the sound of the bell, you know you in the championship rounds with King Amin of Essex and my partner, my co-host, Mr. Bodywork. Introduce yourself. Let the fans know where they can find you, champ.
Man, this Bodywork Boxing on YouTube, Mr. _Bodywork Boxing on the gram, and it's Bodywork Boxing 24/7 on Gmail. I'll let your boy. What up, champ?
Hey man, everything's good, man. I can't complain. We got it's been an interesting week as we kind of wind down the boxing schedule. We got some nice news to talk about, but we got some things to review. I want to get right to it. I don't want to waste no time. Tio, what do you think about the fight? Let's talk about it. I know you're high on Tio. I mentioned going into it. I was curious about how this one was going to turn out. What do you think of what happened and then what's going to happen with him?
I think, we got a true barometer of where he is, right now. Like, we know that he's having some confidence issues. He's having some confidence issues. I didn't know until after I did a video where it came out what he said, and when he asked if he still got it. The fact that he would even say that unaware is just who he is. That's why I like him, man. He's just real, man. He's a young guy. I believe that at this state, something happened and his rawness is really showing. I think that my final advice is this. I don't think that he should part ways from his pops, but I think that much like when you see Breadman working with Caleb Plant, you see what could happen. You see a flash of what happened when AJ worked with Robert Garcia. We see what happened when Ryan went from Reynoso over to Goosen. Yeah. That peekaboo style. I mean, you get a different set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes. And it's not saying, bye, dad. But at some point, in order for things to grow, you gotta prune the tree, so the flower can bloom and blossom. And I just think that, he'll be okay. I think that it was a reality check for him, and that I don't believe he's ready for Regis quite yet, but I do think that there are some minor things like using the jab, learning how to escape, finding other ways in, like how to implement adjustments in real time. So he'll be okay. It's just, how his pop's going to handle him now. Is he going to give up the reign? What do you think?
Well, when I looked at him as a fighter, even as he's fighting Sandor Martin, that didn't look like the T I was familiar with. He looked kind of lost. What made it a little worse was all of the things going on, and that's none of it his fault, but a lot of that is his responsibility to try to resolve as best as he can before he come to the table with that. I mean, he's only a human being. I think it's hard when you're trying to be a prize fighter, and he mentioned early out in the press is entertainment. Well, sometimes people like that. I mentioned in the title, I said don't crash out, because sometimes people like to see that. I don't want to see the man's downfall, but I'm also okay with seeing people go through things that have to give them some resiliency. So if this is a tough time for him, I'd like to see him get tougher than the time appears to be for him. Because I think he's capable of it. But right now, the panic thing is the training, but you need a different trainer when all he can tell you is, Poppy, remember you got knocked down. Like, when that's all, he's telling you, like, you definitely need a different voice, and him being maybe a guy, again, you mentioned that he's revealing that vulnerability and revealing that he's temperamental. That makes him human. That's not a knock. He needs somebody that can match him with that, or provide a reassurance that before we even get to the boxing part. We know he's a workhorse. He can train. He can do all the scissoring. He like one of the bartenders out of Uptown and all that. But up here, forget about Uptown. Up top, he got some things he got to work on, man. And I hope he does that. I don't think anything's over for him. And yes, he needs to stay clear of Regis Prograis.
Absolutely.
So, let's talk about another fighter on that card who looked amazing. And I mentioned, I got to be honest and say that not as endorsing criticism, but again, just endorsing how I got to stay in the position that I chose. And I'm talking about one Keyshawn Davis,
Mm-hmm.
business key.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the building. I've seen the electricity that he brings. Norfolk, Virginia travels with that man, and he's brash, What
Mm-hmm.
he's doing isn't new, going back to Muhammad Ali, and it's a whole persona and all of that, but he does mean business in the ring.
Right.
And I just have to ask myself, I'm asking you, I'm asking anybody that'll listen, is the kind of talk and the brashness in his behavior, is that good business, or, is that kind of, bad business?
I think it's the era. I think we spoke about this before. I think it's the era we're living in where, if you recall, Bob had basically put out there that he wanted Bud to do more of that back then. I think that you have to kind of find a balance. I think Keyshawn has the, world in his palm right now. He has a lot of eyeballs glued. His name pops up in a lot of conversations. So you did what you need to do to garner the attention, right? And if you look at Bud and the hype and the build up to this Avanesian fight, that's all it was. It was a lot of interviewing, a lot of sound bites, a lot of clips, a lot of rememberable moments for people to make content or just drive a boxing conversation. I think Keyshawn has that part down. The thing is, it's only going to work as long as he continues to be the businessman inside the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So he handled his business. Me, myself, I mean, Devin Haney went 12 rounds with this guy. This guy went 12 rounds with Mikey Garcia.
Yeah.
I was saying, okay, the next step up was like, okay, we know you can get in rounds. And yeah, it might have been, more of a task to do it in 8, but you the business, man. So I would have liked to see him stop the guy. That's a real statement. But however, you saw when he get in the flow, he was doing the Allen Iverson. He's not gonna be able to get away with that, But he showed the showman, and that's part of the game right now. We might like the old school, but we saw with Roy Jones and everybody. But I think as long as he keep handling business inside the ring, people, is going to give him the praise. He's got to keep stepping up those names.
You're right, man. And I think a former champion and Juan Carlos Burgos is a good name to step up. And you're right. I think I got to get off the grouchy old man, syndrome for a minute and accept that this is the era and let that young man rumble. But he got to bring that thunder in the ring. Again, not for me to endorse any sort of downfall, but, I just like to I like to, keeping the same energy. I like to see you keep the same energy whenever you have the adversity versus when you up. Remember, I titled this one kind of "Don't Crash Out." We don't want nobody to crash out, and I'm certainly saying it's more as a precaution than I am trying to put any sort of block on his light. I want the man to shine, and I think that we talked about these prospects last week, top ranked, and then remember, it was like 4 of them lined up, but he was the only one that, not the only, but him and Tiger Johnson, and he made his moment count. So you also have to give him credit for handling business in that area as well. So
Right.
yeah, man, you're absolutely right about your points on Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's move into another gentleman that was on that card, man. And we've been talking about this guy. I've been hearing a lot of good and fair comparisons to a more polished Riddick Bowe. We're talking about Jared Anderson, the real big baby.
Right.
Impressive performance against Jerry Forrest. I, for one, not that I, didn't believe in the power, but I just like to see fighters go through adversity, like to see how they're gonna do. But he didn't have time for all of that. Crushing shot to the top of the head. And he mentioned the names he called out was very specific. I know we might have talked about this, but I just want to touch on this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
He called out Daniel Dubois.
Mm-hmm.
He called out Michael Hunter. And Dubois, we heard that was ordered a mandatory for the consolidation of the WBA with Usyk.
Right. Yep.
We know that Top Rank and Matchroom do a lot of business together.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a prime moment where we could see Jared Anderson perhaps propelled into that spotlight if he's able to get that Dubois fight before they get it on with Usyk, right? What do you think about the prospects of Daniel Dubois and then where he goes from there?
I think we should clamor for it. I think we should be clamoring for it. I mean, because the reality got to kick in. As much as we like what Top Rank is doing, right? As much as we like what they're doing, Teddy Atlas said it a while back. He said it's a Top Rank diet. I mean, it is what it is. We said that that's the starter pack. It's gonna make you look like a superstar. Here it is. We got Michelle Rivera and Frank Martin getting ready to get it on, but they're saying that it need to be marination for Devin, the undisputed champ, and then a two-time or two-division champ, and Shakur that needs to wait. So it's like over there at PBC, yeah, you have the nights on Top Rank where it's you don't win, you might get your contract tore up.
Yeah.
But if we can get fighters like Frank Martin and Michelle Rivera, who have a lot to lose in this era where nobody, wants to lose, and he spoke to that. Jared Anderson talked to that. Why not? Why not now? What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? Like, PBC is showing you that, hey, let's get them in there. So I think it can happen if we push for it. We can't have people getting out in front and say, oh no, not ready and need. No, as fans, we need to be like, we want to see it.
Well, you mentioned Top Rank diet. And I want to throw this around there. A lot of people stateside like to balk at it, but is there a chance that Dubois could upset the apple cart, having been in there with Joe Joyce? If we're talking about competition and a Top Rank diet, yeah, Dubois. And after Dubois' last fight, even though I thought he did well, a lot of people that, they were calling for all tours, the fight should have been, called off after he went down 3 times, WBA rule, so-and-so. Again, I'm not disputing any of that, but just bringing it down to the boxing, Dubois has faced adversity.
Right.
And, again, losing to Joe Joyce, does he have an advantage over Anderson, who's maybe been given, opportunities to shine more than opportunities to develop as a championship level fighter? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's very fair because it's the level of adversity. He got knocked out and then he got knocked down, and then in further reading, because I didn't know what was going on when I seen the boy go down. I didn't know that he had a knee injury. I was like, oh, okay, so that makes more sense. But then in that moment, he actually gained some valuable experience. It's like he couldn't put weight on that leg. Yeah. That mean I have the box, right? And then he was the benefactor of actually being able to see Jared Anderson, face adversity real early, because my man cracked him like 4 times early, like 3 hard ones. And it was a little battling going before, and then another crack. So he this man has a beard, and he showed his output. He was 47% in the first round. 100 and something punches. I'm looking at the CompuBox numbers, and I was, saying about T.O. and Sandor. We talking about 75 and 45 punches. This man doubled that in the first round as a heavyweight. Yeah. So it depends. Like if Jared, he showed he got a beard. The boss showed that he can get back up. I mean, that it don't go the distance. I know that.
Yeah. Remember, my dark horse, and some people seem to think that there's no incentive, and there isn't, because there's nothing on the line except but excitement. That Fabio Wardley, that's that dark horse, man. That's that dark horse.
Yeah, I was like, man, Jared, I don't know if Jared could eat 4 of those, up front, and then he got slapped on the beard and woke up. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, the heavyweight division got a future. It get me excited. I don't know if you could tell or not.
No, definitely, man. It's a great division, man. A division that used to, I guess, get everybody excited. It has its ebb and flows, man. Welterweight, I used to call it the nexus of the boxing universe. I kind of fell off with that because it's fizzled out. But a little glimmer, a lifeline, a little preserver. We got Stanionis and Ortiz has been ordered, purse bid, Golden Boy Promotions. Maybe some would have thought PBC by way of TGB Promotions would have won the purse bid, but they have this fight scheduled. Welterweight for a vacant IBF, I think. What do you think about this one?
Man, I like it. We asked for it right here. We asked for it on here.
Yeah.
We said, man, remember we had the table. We said, man, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why. You know, the boxing guys were like, hey. And then also it took a little bit of Oscar. You know, somebody over there at Golden Boy had to look down and make sure that they were still there. And they, you know, they did what they needed to do. And it also says, if for whatever reason it doesn't happen and Virgil pulls out, then we know it was Oscar that wanted it and not Virgil. If it goes through, it means that Virgil wanted it, Oscar believed in it, and they put bread in it, on it. So they put their money where their mouth is. I'm very excited about that fight. You know, I love the, closer to it. And once we see, because I don't want to fall in love and then something happen with the fight. And then, we got a little baby hangover, but we definitely got to stay tuned to what's going on with that. But that's a great fight.
Man, I'm hoping we don't get no hitches in the giddy up, as they say, man, with this particular fight. Because again, the welterweight division has, we saw what Terrence Crawford did, and we know what we want, to happen moving forward. We're still waiting on the other shoe to drop, because if that means that Earl Spence is not fighting Stanionis, then is that Thurman, or does he have the right to just kind of linger and do nothing or something at the same time? You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about? So, I'm hoping that this fight is a domino that causes some other movement in the division, right?
Right.
Movement. Shakur moved up 135, hasn't had a fight yet. Maybe a reason why, according to, different reports. Pitbull Cruz turned the fight down. According to different reports, Williams Zepeda turned the fight down. And remember, these are according to reports. And now George Kambosos seems to be on the table. And even one of the most latest updates, Jojo Diaz is a potential update for Shakur Stevenson's first fight at 135. What do you think about what's happening for Shakur since he's moved up, and the prospects of any of these opponents, if any of these fights are possible?
Shakur is officially playing Pac-Man. He's playing Pac-Man now. He went from the hunted to once again being the hunter. He is high risk, low reward right now. And I think that it's coming down to a point to where he needs to get in there with somebody. And I'm gonna say this, right? We know that Shakur, we talked about it on here again. We know that Shakur couldn't make the weight. I really wish he would have just did it to hold on to them belts, because now that's being presented as like, well, basically it's so what do you have to offer?
Yeah.
I mean, other than, I'm really the man, you know what I'm saying? I'm moving up. Like you should understand it's because of weight. So now it's this thing to where he forfeited it because he don't have that, and everybody's looking, and we cover a lot of ground here, because we talked about how once you don't have a belt and you're a highly skilled fighter, you know what I'm saying, people can play that, oh, well, what you have to offer.
Yeah.
But then the second rep, they want to say they want to see the best fight the best. So with Kambosos, at first I was like, why not? But if there's going to be some triangulation and we're going to get eventually a Devin and Shakur, why not see him up against a Kambosos? Why not see him up against a JoJo and see how he does? If he can put them to sleep or do better than what Devin did, to kind of create some traction to be able to get the creme de la creme to fight.
Yeah, and I think that you made a great point about the hunter at this point, because he's gonna have to really cast that wide net, a la what what Boots is going through. Just cast a wide net and say, hey, I got a petition to govern sanctioning bodies. I gotta, just talk my shit. You know what I'm saying? I gotta put it all out there, because what's gonna draw people in, make the incentive to fight me. Now, hopefully, he has the full support of Top Rank, to where they can maneuver him and get him a fight. Now, we hate to see, I guess the idea of paper champions, and they kind of position him just to get a belt. But I'm hoping they get him a fight to where it's maybe for a vacant title at 135, or if somebody got a strap, Shakur is willing to do some business and say, hey, let me get that, we'll see. I don't know how Top Rank operate with that, man, because they may end up offering him an opponent as opposed to, a title opportunity at 135, which would then kind of shift the balance of the division. That's why I think they're kind of waiting on what Devin going to do, because they need to say, well, listen, if Devin move up to 140, cool. Now we know Shakur, or we expect Shakur to handle that and kind of create that incentive for people to try to come after him or whatever. But any thoughts about that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, man, people are going to duck Shakur, man. They're
yeah,
going to duck him. Like, he's been getting ducked. You know what I'm saying? He's been getting ducked, and this is a justification as to how they're going to duck him. You know, it's just plain. It's like you got to play chess in this, in this game, and you got to weigh in everything, because think about it. When he had a belt and he was trying to go see Valdez, they was, putting that carrot on the stick for him.
sure.
That's when he had it. And then, something happened and they put it together, but now you don't have a belt. When you have a belt or you hold on to that, you got leverage. Look at what Haney was able to do with his belt. That's leverage. So when you playing chess, you got to think about that, especially when you're moving up. You got to give somebody incentive. Otherwise, they're going to say, oh, well, you're going to give me a stupid bag, or I got to be able to win something. And not even, now we wanted to do away with the secondary belt. So now you don't even have a secondary belt that can put you up in the rank. They trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Domino effect. Got to play chess. Got to play chess.
Speaking of playing chess, I'm hoping some of these guys, AJ, he playing checkers. And I want to call this little quick segment. Don't call it a comeback. Are these people on the comeback, or they need to, take a little bit more time on the shelf? AJ is out with Derek James, looking for a new trainer. Previously Robert Garcia. Before then, I think he was with I'm not sure if it was Ben Davidson or some Mark Tibbs, somebody out in the UK. And he's not going to announce his next opponent or his next fight date until he solidifies a trainer. Is this a good move for him or what?
You can't go wrong with the evil genius, Derek James. I believe that, with AJ, because a lot of the knock on AJ is like the stiffness and things like that, right? Derek James, he used to working with, Charlo, Jamel Charlo, Spence, bigger guys, not as big as AJ, but bigger guys. And his whole thing is what he actually in whatever position you're in. A lot of times AJ's problem is he's trying to wing a punch, even though he got that big wide stance, but he's out of position.
Yeah.
So protected, but also in any stance, in any angle, he's showing you up or hones you in as to be able to always be able to attack from that position and still have your leverage. That's going to help. I don't agree with bouncing around. I think Derek James was up on the, I think he was on the docket or one of the options before. I'm like, if you would have just did that, but I don't like the bouncing around. I would have liked to see him again with Robert Garcia, just because and I don't know what it says about AJ, if it's the disciplinarian or whatever, because we don't get the behind the scenes, but he need to soak up as much as he can, because Jamel Charlo got 4 belts, Errol Spence got 3, Derek James been behind it, and he got a young pup getting ready to get it in with Michelle Rivera. So soak it up.
Well, you know who I think is soaked up. I'm just being real. Edgar Berlanga, man. This whole and listen, when I say that, I don't mean it to disparage him as a fighter, but I think the fire and all of that, the flash and all of that, it's no mas. I think that I don't know if it's a refusal or an inability to evolve now that the power, and this is, and I always compared him to not even, but an Adonis Stevenson. What are you going to do when the power cannot get people up out of there? And Adonis Stevenson, at least his power was consistent for a very long time. We never got the Kovalev fight. I know that was Kovalev doing the ducking, but yeah, man, Berlanga's been looking very mortal against opponents. And he hasn't had anything to his game. Now he's coming back off of suspension. What do you think about what's going on with Edgar Berlanga? Are you high on him? Do you see him reaching more potential, higher potential, or what?
Man, I call him Edgar no longer. I was never, I mean, it's, again, I see things for what it is. That's why I don't like the talk and the brashness. You know what I'm saying? I seen him hanging with Fat Joe and all that. I think he need to, lean back a little bit from all of that. You know, you got too much exposure because when you put yourself out there and you build yourself up, you know, I don't mind the talk. That's what's selling. But at some point, you know, less is more. You got the camera, you got things to say, but you got work to do. You got to work on your technique, you know. So he got some building to do. 6 months off from the suspension and then biting my man. You know, I don't know. You know, I mean, they're gonna step him up, but how long? Because you got to think he's been on this top ranked diet for a while now, hasn't he?
Man, he go from the top ranked diet to a junkyard dog, man. He
They're
he
gonna throw him to the
done.
wolves. They're gonna
Yeah.
throw him to the wolves. They're gonna put him in there with a real killer, man. And I mean, you know, so he gonna borrow time if you ask me. But he can redeem himself. Just get in the gym, man.
Well, this brings us to a gentleman. Like, is he also done? He's announced with a fight against Ivan Redkach in 2023 February, but no weight. And that's the thing it was funny to me because Adrian Broner I'm talking about. And it's easy and respectfully, it's easy to make a target of Adrian Broner. But I think Adrian Broner, beyond the entertainment of the talk, you know, a lot of people are disappointed at him not realizing the potential they think he possesses. Yet opportunity after opportunity, and I think that's the part where whoever is a fan of the sport, we allowed to be entertained by that. Like, yeah, like because every time we believed in Adrian Broner, you know what I'm saying? So I'm taking liberties and saying with all the time I invested, yo, I want to see. Again, it's funny to me. There's no weight has been announced, and it's Ivan Redkach who got bullied by Tank in that footage that was like, you know what I'm saying, notorious. What do you think is supposed to happen in this fight? What's happening with Broner? Is this a comeback or did he crash out already?
Man, I think he crossed over. He's into novelty boxing, right? And no harm, no foul, but he's a novelty boxer just like Ivan Redcat. They're novelty boxing. I seen Adrian and salute to Adrian if you seeing this, man. Try not to wear white so much, man, because I saw a picture, man, and I was like, man, this man looks like he in his second trimester, man. No wonder why it ain't they're waiting for the baby to drop, you know what I'm saying? So they come out with a due date. But they entered in the novelty boxing. Last time I seen the footage with Red Catch and Tank, but I also seen the fight on Triller when Regis Prograis hit that man and he cried and it come to show the man didn't get hit in the jewels. You know, he was acting. So Adrian is about billions. He's trying to be still, you know, and it's a bag. You know what I'm saying? So he about the bag. Him and Red Catch is right along with it because outside of that, like when do Red Catch ever really get no real smoke? So they novelty boxes. I put them in the Jake Paul and all that category. Get your bag. You know what I'm saying? It's a grade above the Jake Pauls and them who's, you know, they got skills. But I don't look at them like, you know, up there with, I don't look at them like that right now. That's just me.
Well, and last but not least, also is he coming back or did he crash out already? He delivered a long, lengthy soliloquy on Instagram about how he's not guilty, and I'm talking about Conor Benn. And I was high on Conor Benn. You know, again, I think as a fan of the sport, I can take liberties because I'm trying to understand his. He's like, yo, I'm not guilty. I didn't do anything. Yeah. And it's like, but what out there has been presented to the contrary of the fact that you cheated with this PED? Like, I haven't heard anything unless I'm misinformed. Is this guy,
He
did he
get
crash out or what?
kinda, you know. I mean, we're at the mercy of we're at the mercy of what he's gonna come out with. I'm like, don't run a guilt trip on us without us having any information. You know, we don't have the information that you have. So we are right because, you know, just like if we thought Eubanks was on something and we caught him, we would have been at his throat too. Connor. Connor was one of my guys. I had him in my intro. I don't even play that on my videos no more because I want to know. You know, I was going to war for him. I was like, man, this dude got something. So don't try to run a guilt trip on us because you know something that we don't.
Yeah, I
You
win
know,
that
we're going off of what we know, and we wouldn't want nobody to fight you with anything like that in their system or anything to give them a competitive advantage. So I gotta hold my thoughts on that until I figure out what he's talking about.
I chastised Keith Thurman for saying he didn't know who he was. I said it would be the perfect fight with Virgil Ortiz because they were both with the zone, and I got left at the altar, this guy with this thing. So you know what? I don't know that he crashed out yet, but he owed me something, man. You owe me something, champ. You owe me a good fight or a comeback. I mean, do me a favor. Speaking of favors, women's boxing doing us a favor, keeping us nice and busy, keeping us, definitely ingratiated and ingrained in what's happening. We want to present two fighters, one of which was just in action last week, and I'm gonna let you lead off with our women's boxing Wednesday feature.
It's Shannon O'Connell. They call her the Australian Queen. You know, over there, I think she's ranked number 3 and number 8 globally. And she went up against Ebony Bridges. Salute to Ebony Bridges for her valiant effort, but often we always give praise to the winner, basically. So I wanted to just salute O'Connell because didn't know much about her, but she actually showed that, I mean, just like the Argentinians, them Australians are some tough cookies.
Mm-hmm.
So along with the Jeff Horns and the Tim Zoos and the Camboses, she's Australian, royalty in boxing over there. And I want to say that let her be a testament to where they call her the shotgun, right? If you can get through the front door, you'll be all right, but you just gotta make it because, man, she almost stopped Ebony like with 2 punches like early on. But Ebony came back. She was durable. The only thing is she ran out of gas after the first round.
Yeah.
That and technique. Like, she gassed out after the first round. She didn't have no umph on her punches. I wanted to salute her because she don't do what we seeing a lot of times right now when people are showing up just to get a bag. She was getting hit with some shit. Yeah. And she didn't give up. I think it was like the fight of the quarter in my eyes. It was nonstop. You talking about action? It's different when we seen the GWOAT. That was skill on skill. So it wasn't as much action, but this was action on action until it was over. So want to salute to her for being a valiant competitor in that match. You know what I'm saying? She entertained me big time. They both did.
Definitely a Gaddy Ward-esque effort, between the two fighters. And I think a lot of the behind the scenes thing contribute to that, which made it a spirited event. I want to feature another fighter who fought about 2 weeks ago. And I mentioned her name, and I just want to just double back and just give her a little bit of kudos because we're seeing a lot of the women go up in weight to either become undisputed or to unify. And Yokasta Valle, she deserves a kudos. She went and fought Evelyn Bermudez. Now, Evelyn Bermudez was undefeated, she got Evelyn Bermudez's title and then she vacated it. Now she moved back down, and it just, I love to see fighters like that. She's 27-2. A lot of her opponents actually when she met them, they were mutually undefeated. Her 2 losses were very early in her career, both in 2017 and 2018, respectively. And, I'm excited to see what she's going to continue to do at flyweight because in those lower weights, sometimes, she might want to move up. Maybe she'll cross paths with Sinisha Estrada at some point, or Marlene Esparza. So, those fights could potentially be on the table. So salute to Yokasta Valle,
I gotta go do some homework.
Yeah, she's like a Costa Rican version of Francois Cruz Dezern. Very stylish with the overcoats and she I think her sister designed some of her things, but definitely, she started off slow in that fight because she was moving up. But once she got her rhythm, she showed her skill. And I just like that, again, female fighters, women's fighters are challenging themselves and,
cool.
Salute to them.
Salute to them.
Now, real quick, we're going to take a look at this weekend's action before we get out of here. We talked about it a lot. We got Martin and Rivera. You got to pick, or are you going to let leave some mystery behind it?
Man, I hate to pick against Derrick James and his ability. I just know that it's like this. It's like this. I can see Michelle Rivera outboxing Frank Martin. But I can also see Frank Martin stopping Michelle Rivera if he make a mistake. Because I seen Michelle Rivera hit the canvas. This is a 50-50 fight. It's true. I don't have enough film on Martin I've seen what he can do. Martin is my guy. I'm just not going to disrespect Michelle Rivera and the skill set he had, because I think that he has a very prominent boxing skill set. I question whether or not if Frank can get to that chin. If he can, so that's my pick.
And Martin's going to have to show another gear in order to get to that chin, because Rivera could definitely put on a boxing clinic. And I think with the lack of footage, I'm like you on Martin. I ain't seen enough of him to know. I know he's a strong fighter. I know that, he seems to have stamina, and he carries that, that power kind of late into the fight, where he's hitting fighters, with punches that can kind of slow him down a bit. But, he could get caught up trying to chase Rivera, unless he shows us, like I said, a different kind of gear. He might want to try for some counters and, make it a rougher fight and at a much slower pace than Rivera's going to be, try to make him uncomfortable,
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, he got Derrick James, he's a master at adjustment. So we all going to win on that one. You know what I'm saying? The fans win, on that fight, man. I'm just ready to see it.
And it's not much else this weekend, but since we were talking about it earlier, women's fights, this is probably the only title fight of the weekend. Mary Spencer and Femke Hermans. Mary Spencer's a 7-0. This is a fight on Friday out of Canada. Spencer 7-0. Hermans is 13-4. Listen, her only 4 losses, I believe, is to Eileen Sederus, who lost to Dezern Cruz when they fought for Undisputed. I think she also lost to Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. So again, only having lost to champions, this is going to be a good fight. Caroline Dubois is in action this weekend. She's on the undercard of that Dan Aziz and Rocky Fielding undercard out of the UK. And Jose Uzcatagüe is in action against I call him Schlemkin. I can't pronounce his name, but I call him Schlemkin. So yeah, it's a little scarcity happening this weekend, but anything else, you want to cover before we get out of here?
I'm gonna try to check out Caroline Dubois. She actually, I like what I saw from her the last time. And you had something else real quick. Brandon Lee and Jaleel Hackett.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Lee's my guy. He went through adversity, university. You know what I'm saying? I keep it 100, just like when T.O. went through his little thing. Even though he came out with the victory, I think he learned from that. And then Jaleel Hackett in his size, I want to see what he got at that size, because he didn't like sprouted up. So I'm excited about them guys too. Just wanted to mention them. Say, hey, you can watch them guys too. I like them guys.
Nah, definitely. But it's like we missed it because PBC, you got to make yourself hot. We hoping these guys get the opportunity to make themselves hot. I hope we gave you guys another hot episode. It's your man, King Amin of Essex, and my co-host. Let him know one more time, champ.
It's Bodywork Boxing on YouTube, Mr. _Bodywork Boxing on the gram, Bodywork Boxing 24/7 at Gmail. Here at Bodywork Boxing, where we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.
And that's what counts. And the championship rounds, ladies and gentlemen, we out of here.